What happens when a royal guest mistakes a talk show couch for a throne and forgets that respect goes both ways? In just 35 seconds of unfiltered arrogance, one of the most beloved hosts in daytime television had to make a decision that would stun her entire audience. This is the moment Prince Harry got kicked off the Kelly Clarkson show. The day started like any other taping. Kelly Clarkson, America's sweetheart, the girl next door who became a superstar, was preparing to welcome a guest who needed no introduction. The audience was buzzing with excitement. You could feel the energy in the studio. Prince Harry was making the rounds on American talk shows, promoting his latest venture, and Kelly's show was next on the list. Kelly walked out to her signature upbeat energy, waving to the crowd, and that genuine smile lighting up the room. She settled into her chair, adjusted her notes, and glanced at the monitor showing the guest waiting backstage. Everything seemed perfect. The producers gave the signal. The cameras were rolling. All right, everyone. Our next guest is someone I know you've all been waiting for. He's traveled across the pond to join us today, and I'm so excited to chat with him. Please welcome Prince Harry. The audience erupted. Applause filled the studio as Harry walked out, waving casually, that familiar grin on his face. He made his way to the guest chair, and Kelly stood up to greet him with a warm handshake. They both sat down, and Kelly kicked things off the way she always does, with genuine enthusiasm and warmth. Thank you so much for being here. How are you? How's everything going? Harry leaned back in his chair, crossing one leg over the other, in a way that seemed just a bit too comfortable, a bit too casual for someone who had just been welcomed onto someone else's show. Yeah, I'm good. Busy, you know. Doing the whole publicity thing. It's exhausting, honestly. Kelly laughed it off, keeping things light. Well, we appreciate you taking the time. I know you've got a lot on your plate. So, let's talk about what you're working on. She dove into the questions, asking about his latest project, his life in California, the adjustment to American culture. Standard talk show fare. Harry answered, but there was something in his tone, a slight edge, a hint of impatience. Kelly, ever the professional, kept the energy positive, kept smiling, kept the conversation flowing. So what's been the biggest surprise about living in the States? Anything that caught you off guard? Harry shifted in his seat. Honestly, I thought the media here would be different, but it's the same circus, just with different accents. Everyone wants a piece of you. Everyone thinks they're entitled to your time, your story, your life. Kelly nodded thoughtfully. I can only imagine how challenging that must be. Privacy is so important. Exactly. Privacy. Something I've been fighting for my entire life. Something people like you wouldn't really understand. There it was, the first crack. Kelly's smile faltered for just a fraction of a second, but she recovered quickly. The audience shifted uncomfortably. You could feel the temperature in the room change. Well, I think anyone in the public eye understands the challenge of balancing privacy with, being in the spotlight. It's something we all navigate in different ways. Harry let out a short laugh, but it wasn't friendly. Right, but there's a difference between choosing to be on a reality singing competition and being born into a life you never asked for. Kelly's expression tightened. Her voice remained calm, but you could hear the shift. I actually auditioned for American Idol, worked incredibly hard, and built a career from the ground up. But I understand what you're saying about your unique circumstances. Do you, though? Do you really understand what it's like to have your entire existence scrutinized since birth? To have the weight of centuries of tradition and expectation on your shoulders? Kelly took a breath. Kron, I think we all have our own struggles and challenges. They might be different, but that doesn't make one person's experience less valid than another's. Harry waved his hand dismissively. Sure. Everyone's got problems. But let's be real here, Kelly. You sing songs. I was born into one of the most famous families on the planet. It's not the same. The audience gasped. You could hear it, that collective intake of breath. Kelly's face remained composed, but her eyes, those expressive eyes that had conveyed so much emotion through years of performing, they told a different story. She was holding back. I respect your experience, Harry, and I think what you've been through is significant. But I also think it's important to respect everyone's journey. That's kind of what we do here. We celebrate different people and their stories. Celebrate, right? That's what this is. A celebration. His tone was dripping with sarcasm now. You bring people on, ask them surface-level questions, make them dance for the audience, and call it meaningful conversation. Kelly put down her note cards. This was no longer a scripted interview. Harry, I'm not sure what's going on right now, but I pride myself on having real, authentic conversations with my guests. I've cried with people on this couch, laughed with them, learned from them. This show means something to me, and to the people who watch it. Oh, I'm sure it means a lot. I'm sure it's very fulfilling. Asking celebrities about their favorite ice cream flavors and playing silly games. Real hard-hitting stuff. We actually don't do that here. But okay. Kelly's voice was firm now, the sweetness completely gone. If you didn't want to be here, Harry, you didn't have to accept the invitation. Nobody forced you onto this stage. Harry leaned forward, his voice rising. You know what? You're right. I didn't have to come here, but my team said it would be good for the image, good for the brand. Show up on Kelly's little show, smile, wave, pretend like we're all friends. But honestly, I'm tired of pretending. I'm tired of sitting across from people who think they're on my level when they're not. The studio went silent. Even the crew members who had been moving around quietly froze in place. Kelly stared at Harry for a long moment, and you could see her processing what had just happened. She had interviewed hundreds of people. She had dealt with difficult guests before. But this was something else entirely. Excuse me? Her voice was quiet, but it cut through the silence like a knife. You heard me. I'm royalty, Kelly. Do you understand what that means? I come from a lineage that goes back centuries. You come from, what? Texas? You won a singing competition on television. We are not the same. Kelly stood up. Just stood right up in the middle of the interview. The audience didn't know whether to applaud or stay silent. Most chose silence, watching with wide eyes as their beloved host processed the insult that had just been hurled at her. Okay, let me tell you something, Harry. I don't care who you were born to. I don't care what family you come from or what title is attached to your name. You don't get to come onto my show, sit on my stage, and disrespect me or what I've built. I grew up with nothing. I worked for everything I have. And yeah, I won a singing competition, and I'm damn proud of that. I'm proud of where I came from, and I'm proud of what I've achieved. Harry started to interrupt, but Kelly held up her hand. No, I'm talking now. You've had your turn. You came here as my guest. I welcomed you with open arms, with respect, with genuine interest in hearing your story. And you've done nothing but mock me, mock this show, and mock the people who watch it. People who, by the way, work hard every single day. Who tune in because they want to feel uplifted. Because they want to connect with others. Because they want to be entertained and informed. They deserve better than this. I deserve better than this. Oh, come on, Kelly. Don't be so sensitive. I'm just being honest. Isn't that what you Americans love? Authenticity? Well, here's some authenticity for you. This whole thing is beneath me. You're beneath me. That was it. That was the line. Kelly turned to her producers off stage. Get him out of here. Harry laughed. Actually laughed. You're joking. Do I look like I'm joking? You need to leave. Now. You can't kick me off. Do you know who I am? Kelly stepped closer to him, her voice steady and strong. I know exactly who you are. You're someone who confused a title with character. You're someone who thought that where you came from gave you permission to treat other people like they don't matter. And you're someone who is no longer welcome on my stage. Harry stood up. his face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "This is ridiculous. You're being ridiculous." "Security!" Kelly called out, not breaking eye contact with Harry. Two security guards appeared from the wings. The audience was completely frozen, phones out, capturing every second of this unprecedented moment. This wasn't scripted. This wasn't a bit. This was real, raw, and absolutely shocking. "You're really doing this?" Harry's voice had lost its arrogance, replaced now with disbelief. "I really am. You came into my house, Harry. This studio, this show, these people, they're my house. And you disrespected it. You disrespected me. And I'm not going to stand here and take it just because you happen to be born into a famous family." Harry looked at the security guards, then back at Kelly, then out at the audience, all staring at him with a mixture of shock and disapproval. For the first time since he walked out onto the stage, he seemed to realize that he had made a massive miscalculation. "Kelly, look, maybe I came on a bit strong." "A bit strong? Harry, you called me beneath you. You mocked my career, my background, and everything I've worked for. That's not coming on strong. That's being cruel and disrespectful. I just meant that we come from different worlds. We do come from different worlds. And you know what the difference is? In my world, we treat people with respect, regardless of where they come from or what they do. In my world, kindness matters more than titles. In my world, you earn respect. You don't demand it." Harry opened his mouth to respond, but seemed to think better of it. The security guards stood on either side of him, waiting for Kelly's signal. "I think it's time for you to go," Kelly said, her voice softer now, but no less firm. Harry stood there for another moment, perhaps waiting for Kelly to change her mind, perhaps trying to figure out how this had all gone so wrong so quickly. But Kelly didn't budge. She stood her ground. This woman who had sung her heart out on American Idol all those years ago, who had built an empire on talent, hard work, and genuine kindness. She wasn't going to let anyone, royal or not, diminish that. "Fine," Harry finally said, his voice tight. "This show is a joke anyway." "And yet you're the one being escorted out," Kelly replied. The security guards gently guided Harry toward the exit. He pulled his arm away from them, maintaining what little dignity he had left, and walked off the stage on his own. The audience watched in stunned silence as he disappeared behind the curtain. Kelly stood there for a moment, collecting herself, her chest rising and falling with deep breaths. Then she turned to face the audience, and slowly, one person started clapping. Then another. Then another. Within seconds, the entire studio was on its feet, applauding, cheering, showing their support for the host who had just done something extraordinary. Kelly's eyes glistened with emotion. She brought her hand to her chest, overwhelmed by the response. "Thank you," she said softly into her microphone. "I'm sorry you all had to witness that. That's not the show we run here. That's not who we are." The applause continued, louder now, more forceful. People were whistling, shouting words of support. "We're going to take a quick break," Kelly said, her voice steadier now. "And when we come back, I promise we'll get back to what we do best. Celebrating amazing people with amazing stories. Or real people, kind people. People who understand that it doesn't matter where you come from or what your last name is. What matters is how you treat others." She turned to the camera with that signature Kelly Clarkson smile, but this time there was something else in it. Strength, conviction, pride. "We'll be right back." The cameras cut, and the studio erupted again. People were talking over each other, processing what they had just witnessed. The producers rushed over to Kelly, checking on her, making sure she was okay. She nodded, assuring them she was fine. Better than fine, actually. Backstage, Harry had already left the building, his team scrambling to do damage control, but the damage was done. In 35 seconds of unleashed entitlement, he had shown the world who he really was. And Kelly, in her refusal to be diminished, and had shown the world who she was too. The remaining audience members couldn't stop talking about it. Social media was about to explode. The clip would go viral within minutes. But in that moment, in that studio, everyone understood something important. They had just watched someone stand up for themselves, for their work, for their worth. They had watched Kelly Clarkson refuse to be treated as less than, regardless of who was doing the treating. As the commercial break continued, Kelly took a sip of water, checked her makeup, and prepared to continue the show. Because that's what professionals do. That's what people with real character do. They don't let one bad guest derail everything they've built. They don't let someone else's issues become their own. When the cameras came back on, Kelly was composed, warm, and ready to move forward. She addressed the audience directly, acknowledging the elephant in the room, but not dwelling on it. Okay, everyone, that was intense. I think we all need a moment to breathe and reset. But here's the thing about live television and life in general. Sometimes things don't go as planned. Sometimes people surprise you, and not always in a good way. But what matters is how we respond to those moments. Do we let them break us? Or do we stand firm in who we are and what we believe in? The audience hung on every word. I believe in respect. I believe in kindness. I believe that every single person, regardless of their background, deserves to be treated with dignity. And I believe that we teach people how to treat us by what we're willing to accept. I wasn't willing to accept that behavior, and I hope none of you would be either. More applause. Kelly smiled genuinely this time. Now let's move on to something better, shall we? Because I have an incredible guest waiting backstage who actually wants to be here, who actually respects what we do, and who has an amazing story to share. She glanced at her notes, took a breath, and shifted gears completely. The show continued, but everyone in that studio knew they had witnessed something special. Not the meltdown of a guest, but the strength of a host. Not the entitlement of royalty, but the dignity of someone who had earned everything they had. Kelly Clarkson had just reminded everyone watching why she was beloved, why her show mattered, why she mattered, not because of a title or a birthright, but because of character, integrity, barring the courage to stand up for herself and her values. And as for Harry, he had learned a valuable lesson that day, though whether he would actually absorb it remained to be seen. You can't walk into someone else's space, treat them with contempt, and expect to be welcomed. You can't rely on a title to excuse bad behavior. And you certainly can't underestimate a woman from Texas who fought her way to the top and knows exactly what she's worth. The show wrapped without further incident. The audience left buzzing with energy, already calling friends and family to tell them what they had just witnessed live. The crew packed up equipment, still talking about the unprecedented moment. And Kelly went to her dressing room, sat down, and allowed herself a moment to process everything that had just happened. She had stood her ground. She had refused to be diminished. She had shown the world that respect is earned, not demanded, and that no amount of royal lineage excuses treating people poorly. In that moment, Kelly Clarkson wasn't just a talk show host or a singer. She was a symbol of something bigger: self-respect, dignity, the refusal to be made small by someone who confused privilege with superiority.